We're really excited to be a part of the project actually. The whole idea is to try and get the most out of Extractive's data. So we're anticipating a huge wave of data to come over the coming few years.
I think simplicity is probably the name of the game. I think this is a huge amount of data that will be coming out, and these apps need to be usable for the everyday man on the street, people like me who are not hugely technically minded.
For us, one of the large challenges in doing an analysis of the political economy of resources is that much of the data is either not available in a public form or it's available but not very easy to manipulate. For the kinds of analysis we needed to do, that's required quite a lot of heavy lifting with data to get it into a more usable form. And transparency matters, of course, to the communities in which extractive industries operate, but it's also important politically to have a better grip of the kinds of resources data that we're interested in, so that the right decisions can be made, and so indeed that we can have the right conversation about the politics of resources based on empirical evidence.
It's often only accessible to a very small group of people, mostly commercial actors and a limited set of experts.
Being able to now use this data in some way is going to increase a demand for the extractive industry to actually be more responsible and more transparent.
One of the sort of main issues we've run into is that there are a lot of sort of, well, empty fields in the data. So while there's a lot of data, there is a lot of blank data which we can't use. Which means we can't just directly import full tables because half the cells are blank. So that's what we've been working on for quite a long time, just trying to strip all that out.
I mean, in general, a single piece of information is fine, but a single piece of information that you can then link into other data sources, that becomes far more useful.
It can mean very little looking at the complex data set. So you visualization, bringing it down to like meaningful comparisons, that's how you make it relevant. Visualization is a really important thing for those of us, and I include myself in that, who aren't technical experts, who don't actually know sort of the day-to-day details of the oil industry, for example.
But yeah, their revenues are the same. What does that mean for life expectancy?
I think that we're all here today because we want to make a difference and actually help people on the ground who don't have the benefits that we do. So it's that sort of moral imperative, but it's also one of stability and global stability. We know that inequality and corruption fuel conflict, and you know, conflict abroad is bad for us here at home.
We basically started trying to analyze the data and trying to present them in a nice API, basically, to then use the API to build an app. Now, it turned out that it was very, very difficult to do, so we had to limit ourselves to just about 2 data sets, so which actually means 2 Excel files. And we managed to create part of the API we wanted to create, which is still responsive, still publicly available, but it's more proof of concept than a final product. And then we managed to create an app that uses the API and some very nicely looking documentation.
Yeah, I was responsible for that. The API is designed to plug into other services and use the data that was given to us and make it actually, you know, usable. So yeah, other developers might find it very useful.
Yeah, and in general, also the organization providing the data might see and appreciate that providing the data with a proper API, things can happen. Although it must be said, it's not an easy task to develop an API around such a quantity of data. In our group, we were 4 people. We've basically been dealing with 4 different aspects of the same hack. And I think that's a good example of how collaboration can emerge during Hack Day.
think the overall picture from analysing the data was, because it's coming from different sources, you always have to look at where the data came from and get into the nitty-gritty of what it means, the results you've got. Now the next two analysis tools were looking at visualising the data in the table and not manipulating, which it would be more successful. So I think that was the learning from looking at the data.
Yeah. We decided, even we had go before with some different skills, to actually create a proof of concept showing how we could work on data, create an API out of the data, and then use this API to actually develop a service.
And then doing the kind of design work and structure around it. And the idea is that at the next Follow the Data Hackathon, whilst people are finding these things, they've got a much better way to kind of put them out there.
Well, first of all, thank you all. With the little I understand of it, I can understand that you all worked really, really hard this weekend. I think our biggest reflection as a judging team was that your results were actually quite complementary, not so much competing. And in three groups, you sort of worked across the spectrum.
I think across the three pieces there were some really interesting responses. Data is challenging to work with when it's messy, lossy data, so I think we ended up with 3 award categories in the end.
The award of Best Concept goes to Mark with FactCache. The award for the Best Platform for Impact goes to AcadVerify. And the award for Best Response to the Challenge goes to CompareMath.
One of the things that I really got out of it was kind of having the conversation about all the work that went into them, because it's very easy, I think, to look at the first project that was demonstrated, which on face value looked like quite a simple application, but actually when we dug down a little bit deeper, it was really interesting to see all the work that had gone into that, and I think that that really raised some issues actually that that people in the industry will have to pay attention to.